The one thing that I believe would work everywhere is fighting. Because it doesn't matter what color you are, what country you come from, or what language you speak. We're all human beings, and fighting's in our DNA, man. We get it and we like it.
I'm Michael Morgan, and welcome to this week's episode of the Wocast. Joining me as usual, week in, week out, it's G from Wo TV.
Yes, my new name, G from Wo TV. How are you, Michael?
I'm exceptionally well. I surpassed my target. As you know, I rode from London to Surrey a week or so ago, and I surpassed my target, which I was trying to raise, which was 2,000 British pounds. I am now 2,300 pounds, so I'm feeling quite good. So I'm not so sure about yourself, though. I mean, I was going to ask how you are, but I think it's kind of clear. I can hear that's kind of like emanating through the speakers. You ain't too good.
You better hope it's not emanating through the speakers, because I'm contagious. No, I'm just joking. I have like a sinus infection, and I'm playing hooky from work. I'm nursing myself, so I might sound a little different this week, Mike, but I'm okay. I think I'll survive.
Okay, well, hopefully you're getting a little bit of TLC. I saw you put on Twitter that you were hoping to get a nurse and possibly some sex out of it. So I hope you struck gold.
No, I have not struck gold. I'm still waiting for this woman to show up. You know what I mean? Damn. I just make my own goddamn tea, but I'm all right.
You got the jokes.
Listen, it ain't a joke. Send one over if you know one, but keep going.
Well, moving swiftly on. This week's episode will be recapping Fight Night 156. We'll be listening to our guests, Kerry Hughes, Leon Edwards and Leah McCourt. We'll be looking forward to UFC 241 and our brand new feature this week. I can't wait for this to actually unfold. Motherfucker of the week and listener questions.
I can't wait either. This is going to be a great show.
Indeed. So kicking off, I mean, really and truly, the UFC haven't been spoiling us of late. I took in, UFC Fight Night over the weekend, 156. And I have to say, I kind of watched it with half an eye. I was only really interested, as I mentioned last episode, in Valentina Shevchenko and Liz Carmouche and Vicente Luque and Mike Perry. And, I also, took in Ilia Latifi and see, I can't even remember his name.
Volkan Ozdemir.
Volkan Ozdemir.
There you go.
Yeah. Now, I say I was watching it with half an eye because I don't know about you. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if it's actually reached US Netflix, but I have been engrossed in Peaky Blinders. It's been over here for quite a while, but I've only just tuned in. It's amazing.
Is it?
It is.
It's funny you say that because
amazing.
So many people, I'm into shows, TVs, documentaries, and film, and so many people have told me to get into that show. Is it worth it?
On the outside, you know what? No one's ever sold it to me, so I've never ever kind of been enticed into it. But I don't know why, but on my Netflix planner, it just keeps coming up. It's like a hot pick. And I thought, I'm going to give it a chance because it's almost as though it's willing me to watch it. Man, I was hooked. I was so hooked. That's what I'm saying. I missed the majority of the UFC, and I know that's kind of remiss of me considering that the crux of this show is about mixed martial arts, but segueing neatly into that, I mean, what I did see, as I mentioned, Ilia Latifi and Volkan Ozdemir was, to be honest with you, I wanted Ozdemir to win, only because I just think that he's been given a raw deal of late in terms of 3 losses. And the fact that he has secured his career in the UFC actually pleases me. It's a bit kind of like, how can I put it, bittersweet, because I do also like Ilia Latifi. Ilia Latifi has got this wicked vibe about him in that every time I've ever met him in person, he's got such an engaging personality.
Really?
And it was a little bit, as I say, bittersweet in that, he obviously sustained a loss. And I think at the hands of Özdemir, that was a little bit hard to watch. But put it this way, at least they're both in the UFC. What did you reckon, or what did you make of that matchup?
I thought it was a great fight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I agree with you, Michael, that I was happy for Volkan to kind of get another shot at this and have a wonderful type of fight again and show us what he's made of. Because in his last fight, it's a lot of people debate whether he won or not against Dominic Reyes, and it really wasn't his best showing. And I feel like he redeemed himself here. I mean, he completely shut down Latifi's game plan. I mean, did you see it?
Yeah. Like I say, one of the things that's kind of struck me is the use of combinations. He was going upstairs, he was going downstairs. Those leg kicks were deadly. Well, put it this way. The striking Arsenal was definitely on display.
Oh, yeah, and he was patient, took his time, picked his shots, came, and then was always moving forward while picking his shots and being patient, but at the same time, not letting Latifi set up anything. And the only highlight I can remember from Latifi, he did land some shots, but there was some ferocious takedown that Latifi did on Volkan that actually, it scared me. I tweeted, like, did he just toss this grown-ass man to the ground like it was nothing? Like, it was so scary. But I can say that was the only highlight that I saw for him, because Volkan shut down his game plan. It's as if whatever Latifi had studied and strategized with his team just went out the window, because Volkan was just shutting him the hell down with all those different types of shots. And it was a beauty to see, but painful to see Latifi kind of out there just not knowing what to do or being stunned like that,
Massively. And there was another bittersweet moment, because in the press conference, I was looking forward to seeing what Ilir Latifi was going to actually turn up in. He knows how to dress. The man's dress sense, the man's fashion sense is rather expensive. And I have to say, in terms of the way that he's turned out, 100% bona fide. This guy should be on a catwalk.
Really?
And speaking of, yeah, he's got superior dress sense. And speaking of superior dress sense, I have to mention that our wonderful sponsor, those people over there at The Prospect Apparel, you can find them at theprospectapparel.com. Make sure you check out, when you're actually at the checkout, insert the code WOE20 for 20% off incredible fight gear. Not just fight gear, but everyday items like your bags, your caps. They are really going all in. And as we found out last week, this is going to be something which is going to be expanded upon in terms of the range that they're bringing in, because, the Prospect himself was obviously in our little studio last week talking about his grand plans to actually expand the Prospect Apparel brand. Nathaniel, the Prospect Wood, I think he's on to a winner there, because, their range so far is incredible. So, like I mentioned, make sure, for all of your apparel, your incredible apparel, you head over to theprospectapparel.com.
Nice.
Right. I mean, where do I go to next, really? I mean, Mike Perry, Vicente Luque. Perry is an incredible warrior, absolute warrior. Yeah. The way that, he was actually going in there in almost reckless abandon. And, we all saw the viral picture which actually went around as a result of that reckless abandon. I mean, his nose looked messed up as a result of that knee, and it was a well-placed knee. Beautiful. But that didn't even seem to slow him down. I mean, even when he was sitting in that arming guillotine, he was still trying to punch his way out of it. And that blood, I have to say, did help because,
It
his
got
head
slippery.
in timely fashion slipped out.
Yeah. I thought it was an amazing fight. And what I liked about what I saw with Mike Perry was he was still that savage that we're used to because he was like hooking these shots at Luque's head. But then he was still kind of more patient than we've ever seen him before. And it seemed like he had a legit game plan and he wasn't just swinging for the fences. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like you can see improvements in his game while training at Jackson Wink. It's wonderful to see him a more patient, but still a killer in Mike Perry. And I look forward to these improvements, even though he lost. And it's a controversial loss. You know what I mean? Some people think Mike got it. Some people think Luque got it done. And some people do think it's a draw, but I'm quite impressed with both of them. And I like what I see in Mike Perry, but this has to be the worst broken nose I've ever seen in the history of me watching mixed martial arts. It has to be.
Oh, massively. And I have to say, in terms of performance, I mean, Mike Perry was, I reckon, the harder puncher.
Yes.
But for me, there was no robbery there.
I agree.
Luque actually coming away as the victor was definitely the right decision to make.
Yeah, because if you think about it, in the third round, what happened? He landed that devastating knee. That was big. And then Mike Perry goes for the takedown. What happens? He doesn't get the takedown. Luque overpowers him and gets the guillotine. That is quite impressive in the last round in a close fight. You have to remember that. And you have to remember, too, that Luque has a high guard, and he was kind of blocking a lot of these punches that you saw Mike Perry throwing. They weren't really landing. They were landing on his forearms. But yet...
There you go. The precision
right,
was all Luque.
Exactly. The precision and the countering and the jab he was using in the first round. You can't overlook that because Mike Perry fought a really good fight. And plus, he's a fan favorite. So I believe there's some bias there when it comes to him winning.
Oh, massively.
Absolutely.
I mean, in terms of performances, you couldn't have like a night and day performance when you looked at the Shevchenko versus Carmouche fight. Now, for me, I just thought from a technical point of view, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed how, Shevchenko, after chasing Carmouche, basically did actually engage in a way which, if that pace, that frenetic pace, could be maintained, Carmouche was going to be out of there. But considering that it was a lot of backpedaling, considering that Shevchenko was controlling the center of the octagon, I really do feel that that game plan that she had and the fact that she connected after running after her opponent, I think should be applauded. A lot of people were talking about the fact that, it was boring because of the lack of engagement. But if you have one fighter who's backpedaling and one fighter who wants to engage, I think, the person who, is on the front foot and who is actually pursuing some sort of finish or some kind of like closure should be applauded. And that's Shevchenko in my book.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. But here's where I enjoy doing this, but I'm going to be the devil's advocate. Michael, you have a background in training. So you look at these fights differently. You can immediately notice that, hey, Liz Carmouche is out of range and Valentina is a counter striker. I can say that because I'm a hardcore fan that has been watching for a while with minimal training, unlike you. So what happens is that people call it boring because they don't train in martial arts. They don't know that Liz Carmouche is out of range and being cautious because, she knows that Valentina is a counter striker, but she wants to draw her in. And people don't understand that these are tactics and strategies that teams have put together. And sometimes it cancels out a really fun fight. But what you saw was a masterpiece. Valentina still won that fight. She controlled the fight. And if you ask me, she embarrassed Liz Carmouche. It was the wrong game plan for Liz to do. This woman Valentina is a counter striker. You just can't wait for her to come in there. She's not going to. And then when you do decide to do something about it, you get judo tossed like Valentina did to her. And then a couple times she dropped her. You know what I mean? I respect Valentina's game, but I also understand people that just don't know what they're looking at because they don't train and now they're bored and they're complaining. And don't forget, we got a lot of casuals and new viewers. So they definitely didn't understand what they were seeing. But I saw a masterpiece,
Oh, 100%. I mean, totally agree with you there. I mean, speaking of masterpieces and speaking of women, I think it's kind of like a timely segue into our first guest, which is Kerry Rocksteady Hughes. How you doing, Kerry?
very well. How are you?
I'm exceptionally well. Not as good as yourself though, because finally you've got an MMA matchup. Now, before we go any further, just to put a bit of context on what I've just said there, you have been on quite the tear, but in the ring and not the cage. Why the hiatus? Why the segue into boxing?
I was just bored. Like I fought over in Denmark in June last year, and then obviously I was due to fight on Bellator in February, and I literally the day I signed the contract, I broke my hand. So I was in a position where obviously I had to wait for that to heal up before I could really do anything, and I was really paranoid because like the orthopedic surgeon properly gave me a lecture, and he was like, "It doesn't need an operation." He's like, "It's going to feel like you can train on it after this amount of time. Do not do it, because if you do it, you will re-break it." So I was like, literally wait until the day that I was allowed to start hitting things again. And then after that, I couldn't get on the London cards. There was a couple of other bits I got offered, like Celtic Gladiator out in Poland, but they never happened. And I was just like, oh, do you know what? I can't get an MMA match. And then someone said about this boxing show that Alan was putting on, and I was like, yeah, all right, it's better than. I suppose it's no different if you think about it. The natural grapplers or the people who have come from jiu-jitsu in between fights will do no-gi competitions. Like I like hitting things, so between fights I hit things, you know.
I'm glad you actually linked up with Alan Mortlock because that's a blast from my past. He actually started me in mixed martial arts by linking me up with a few, let's just put it this way, subjects that I could actually interview. So big up to Alan Mortlock. But I digress. I wouldn't mind if it's okay with you, just looking at the fact that, look, you're 3-4 at the moment. You're coming off 3 losses. Now, that boxing match obviously would have built you up in terms of your confidence, in terms of getting back in the cage. But there must have been some mitigating circumstances because I have to say, your style is very aggressive. It's very come forward. You aren't really coming to play about. So
I'm a delicate flower. What are you talking about?
I was quite surprised when, 3 on the bounce was something which I witnessed myself. But there were mitigating circumstances in that. And I think to the untrained eye, people might be getting the wrong impression of your prowess and your skill base. Just talk us through, though, those mitigating circumstances.
It's not about mitigating circumstances, is it? Like the scorecards, so they say, like if people get the wrong impression or they want to write me off or whatever, good luck to them. Like it bothers me not a bit. I know what I'm capable of, and I know sort of the performances that I'm capable of putting on. I haven't shown that in the last few. The one that comes to mind is obviously Cage Warriors Belgium. You know that. A million times over, that should have been a no contest. The referee stopped that whilst I was in the process of escaping a position and having taken absolutely not one bit of damage. You'll even hear the commentators, if you watch it back, going, oh my God, why would they stop that? It is what it is. You get an inexperienced referee sometimes, makes a bad call. And I think people are quite often, the tide is turning a bit, but I think people are still quite a lot faster to stop women's bouts than they are men's sometimes. We've seen that before on bigger stages, like some of the damage that people are allowed to take before fights are stopped compared to how rapidly they'll occasionally stop the ladies' fights. But it is what it is. I'm not going to complain about it. I was fuming at the time. There's lots of naughty words I had to blot off the TV broadcast, but you can't change it, so you might as well just crack on and not be bitter about it.
Now, obviously, cracking on, you've got Leah McCourt. In terms of matchups, in terms of what she poses as a threat, I get the impression that you're not the type of person to watch tape, but you must have an inkling as to what you're letting yourself in for, because she's quite the darling at the moment in terms of the way that she's displayed on Bellator and what impressions that they might have left within you as to what they want to do with her.
Yeah, I mean, well, in terms of Bellator, they are a business. They will market to marketable people. She has come off of lots of, wins in her sport of judo. She's doing well on I think it's the IBJJF or whatever it is, jiu-jitsu side of things. You know, she's a mum. She's kind of built up a career after having some difficulties in the past. She's a pretty girl. She's very, very marketable. So understandably, that's what they're doing, and especially from a country like Ireland, where everyone gets behind their fighters massively. You know, you look in England, Arnold's on a tear through the UFC, and people still don't know his name a lot of the time. He's not a recognisable face. Ireland aren't like that. Like, they really push forward their fighters and they support their athletes there. Even in terms of like the tax processes over there, you know, they support artistic and athletic endeavour as a society. So she's coming into it with quite a profile, which I completely understand. And, you know, they will be looking for her to continue that. I presume, you know, she's we've main carded, which, let's be honest, on the back of either of our records and experience, we shouldn't be sitting under Ben Henderson on a main card. But, you know, like I say, she is that person they're pushing forward to the media. We have been sort of promoted up the card because of that. And she's fighting in her home country to a sold out arena. Like, she's going to be looking to go out there and put on a show.
I was just curious. I mean, I'm hoping there isn't anything other than the fact that you weren't available that day. But it seemed like, as I mentioned, she was quite the darling at the media day, but you were nowhere to be seen. What was that all about? How come you were actually omitted from the media day?
I don't know. I wasn't invited. To be fair, it was in Ireland, and maybe they didn't want to like pay people to travel. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know it was happening until afterwards, and then someone said, "Oh, there was a press conference or something like that." But I haven't really paid it. You know me, I'm not really a media type person.
It's funny, just to segue back, or just to retrace one of the questions which I started with, and that is, you hit upon something which made me think ever so slightly. I wouldn't mind getting your take on, and that is the way in which women are perceived in UK mixed martial arts. It does tend to be ever so slightly biased towards males. In terms of you and your future, you're obviously coming up to, 34, 35? In terms of your longevity in the sport, typically they're looking at males going on into their early 40s. But for yourself, in your mind's eye, when do you see yourself actually segueing out of the sport?
But I actually disagree with what you said there. I don't think the sport is biased towards men. I think, like a lot of things, I think women have a far easier ride in the sport because there's so there are far fewer of us doing it to a decent standard. So the net result is that, you know, in order for me to, I can't see a circumstance where you'd have a 2-1 pro taking on a 3-4 pro on the main card of Bellator as male athletes. I actually think, you know, if anything, you know, I've main evented a couple of cards. I've been co-main on a couple of big cards. And all through my amateur days, I ended up on main cards purely because people liked having women's fights out there. They like to promote it, which means you're afforded opportunities and exposure that aren't available to male athletes at that end of the sport. So I sort of take exception to that. I actually think it's the other way around. I think, you know, within the UK, I think we have it a lot easier. And then you get the flip side of things as well, which is what you do get. Is I think those of the girls who tend to get promoted more, you know, again, it's a marketability exercise, tend to be the prettier and those who are a bit more willing to make a play on that. You know, you see the UFC a lot of the time, or some of the bigger organisations, where there are girls who, you know, maybe have short hair or they're quite masculine features, they don't fit gender stereotypes. You know, you have to look at the likes of Roxanne Modafferi is a great example. You know, she's one of the top 5 flyweights in the world, I think, currently. She's gone out there, she's fought a high out, she's fought for the title, she's absolutely smashed. She doesn't really get a lot of promotion when you'll see other fighters who maybe aren't at her skill level and her level of adaptability and everything else, who are massively promoted forward because of the way that they look or choose to portray themselves. I think that is something that's particular to women's mixed martial arts that doesn't really happen in men's.
Okay. Finally, I'm intrigued on your take on this. Full disclosure, Leah McCourt was asked by myself, you know how I like to put chips in the pan, put chips in the pan and watch it end in flames. See meme on current Twitter feed. Anyway, one of the things which I tried to set up was a head-to-head with, well, the both of you. She quietly declined. Do you read anything in that? Do you see this as some kind of backing down in some way, shape or form?
No, not at all. Look, Leah's a nice girl. She's the same as me. She's far too respectful to want to get into any bickering or trash talking or confrontation. And I suspect quite strongly that she, in the same as me, doesn't really want to be put in a position where you're going to be asked something that's going to be awkward or that's going to lead to something inflammatory. Like, I won't say anything disrespectful about her. You know, she's, at the end of the day, I'm excited about the fact that we have more strong female athletes coming through from the UK and Ireland and representing this area on a national stage. And I imagine that she has a not dissimilar view. I don't see it as backing down at all, you know. If we came to a face-off and she hid round the corner, I'd say that was backing down. But, you know, this isn't really the same thing.
I know I said that it would be my final question. Funnily enough, I've got Leah McCourt in about 1 minute and 30 seconds. But I was just intrigued and wanted to get your take on how you see this actually ending up, how you see this being finished. I mean, I take it you are actually going for a finish. You're not really known for pursuing or grinding out a victory. I just wanted your take on how you see this actually finishing.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because, you know, I've said this before, the only guarantee really is that you're both going to start standing up on opposite sides. Now, I imagine Leah will be looking to shut down and try and prevent me from striking because that's the sensible thing to do. Obviously, for me personally, I've spent a hell of a lot of time without having a fight booked, which has given me a hell of a lot of time to improve all over, really. So, yeah, I mean, I of course I'll be out there looking for a finish, but she's durable. And, you know, she's coming off the confidence of a win over Hattie Sosya, obviously. From my perspective, I feel like for her, this is going to be quite a step up in terms of competition. Hattie should probably be a flyweight, you know, looking at size and everything else. And, yeah, you know, I've got the added experience as well. You know, I've fought judokas before now. In my amateur days, I fought a former youth Olympian, and then obviously the thing with Cindy we didn't get a chance to have a proper fight. But, you know, I've spent quite a lot of time in the past concentrating on how to neutralise a lot of the things that they enjoy doing. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good scrap either way because I think we both have quite a broad spectrum of skills. I think I can almost guarantee that my wrestling and jiu-jitsu will be underestimated because no one's really seen them. But it, you know, that doesn't mean they're not there.
And we haven't got long to wait. September 27th, Hughes versus McCourt goes down in Dublin. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. It's going to be really good fun.
I thought that Kerry Hughes was incredibly measured. I thought she was incredibly composed, and I thought she was incredibly respectful. I mean, what did you make of the interview yourself?
I think the same things. I thought she's ready, she's training, she's composed, and she's not really here for the bullshit. You can tell she's not here for the entertainment aspect of the fight. This woman is coming off a loss in Danish MMA, I believe, against Pani Kanzad, and it was a decision loss, and she's focused on getting a win. You know, I think people's motivations are different. When you're coming off a loss, I don't think you have time to kind of amp up a fight right now and get involved in the entertainment aspect. She sounds composed and ready to go, and I like it.
Well, I have to say, I did try and stoke the fire ever so slightly because, you know, prior to actually both interviews actually coming off. I mean, just before we actually segue into the second half, which is Leah McCourt, who will be facing Kerry Hughes at Bellator Dublin on September 27th. But I tried to get them to do a head-to-head so that we could actually see some sparks, see some fireworks, see some kind of clash. And I have to say, Leah McCourt respectfully declined. And I think she talks about that a lot more in this interview. She's quite the Bellator darling. It's Leah McCourt.
Hello.
Hey, well, I have to say, it's been a while in coming. We've been crossing like ships in the night. I have to say, it has been a pretty packed schedule here at the Wocast. But thankfully, it's kind of like timed quite nicely because I've literally just got off the phone with, well, who will be staring across the cage from you, and that is Kerry Hughes. Now, I take it that in typical fighter fashion, you've not been studying up on Kerry Hughes at all, right?
Yeah. Well, we've had a look at a few of her last fights. Obviously, just having a look at her strengths, and obviously just focusing on me and my game plan, really.
Okay. Well, you know, I just wouldn't mind, if it's all right with you, to address the elephant in the room. A few weeks back, I invited you to come on with Kerry, and that was to have a head-to-head. I mean, it's something which we do quite a lot of time here on Woe TV. I do, as you probably know, like to stir the pot. Our strapline is always making trouble. Was there any reason why you not necessarily backed out of that, but declined to come on with Kerry?
Listen, I have enough drama in my life. I don't need to have fake drama on an interview. I think I was in Thailand at the time, and it didn't really suit. And like, what's the point? Like, what are we like? I have nothing bad to say about her. We're gonna fight. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm straight. I'm black and white. If I had something to say bad about her, she'd know about it. But I don't. So I just didn't think there was much point in it.
Now, you know, one of the obvious things, just looking at your record and looking at Kerry's record, she's 3-4, you're 2-1. Now, albeit that you're coming off the back of, you know, a victory, albeit that, you know, this is, if you don't mind me saying, a step up for you. I mean, would you agree with me? Do you see, like, Kerry Hughes as somewhat of a challenge?
Yeah, so my first professional fight was against a two-time Olympian. My second fight was against a former IMAF world champion as well. And my third fight was against, I can't remember, Hattis, and she had like 100 kickboxing fights, you know, so like it's not like I've had easy opposition. I think Kerry's going to be a tough fight. She's going to be aggressive. She's experienced. She's gonna come forward, and that's what you want in a fight. Like, she's gonna be, like I say, I don't know if she's gonna be a step up. She's gonna be, you know, a tough fight and a tough challenge for me.
Now, you noted
put down my other opponents.
You noted one of the things which is definitely Kerry's trademark, her aggression. She's very, very aggressive, and she has her opponents on the back foot. And, you know, she's got a come-forward style. Now, I take it that, you know, not necessarily looking past her, but you don't really see that as much of a problem.
It's, you know, like, I train for all kind of circumstances. I jumped down with Owen Roddy, you know, the guys down there. All my sparring partners are men. I'm used to fighting on the back foot and used to fighting coming forward. So it's just, you know, different styles. I'm used to that different style and kind of adapting my game plan to that. On the night, she might not have the same game plan. She might step back, look for shots, and I'm just going to be prepared for everything.
When you say you're prepared for everything, a lot of people, I have to say, overlook the fact that, you know, Kerry Hughes, her wrestling pedigree is something which hasn't been on display, but is definitely in her armoury. Is that something which you're prepared for as well?
Yeah, you know, like, I've obviously had like a fight. She's good defense, good. She's a good overall MMA fighter, and you know, I don't go down and just work on striking or just work on grappling. We're doing everything on. We're doing working on our you know, like all over game, and do you know what I mean? That's all I can do, and I'm gonna do look to implement what, like, the best version of me in there.
You know what's interesting? A lot of the SBG talent, they talk about the fact that everything is at SBG gym. Everything that they need is under one roof. But I noticed that you'd actually been, I mean, we were speaking when you were in Thailand. And one of the things which is kind of interesting was the fact that you were basically going elsewhere to enhance your skill set. What was the reason for that?
So my dad lives in Thailand, so I was over visiting him with my daughter, and while I was there, I was training in Tiger Muay Thai. His friends are the Hickman brothers and Alex Child and Tariq, the guys that run the pro MMA team. I was over doing 2-3 sessions a day while I was out there, so I was obviously visiting him and getting my good training in with the guys.
So in terms of how you see things going down on September 27th, I take it, obviously, just like Kerry, you'll be hunting for the finish. I mean, just in your mind's eye, though, I take it that just like many fighters, you visualize the finish. How does it actually play out in your mind's eye?
So obviously, I always look to finish. I feel like I have that killer instinct. Like I have 6 first round finishes or something, and I know she's going to be coming forward aggressive. So I just like to implement my game plan, whether it's striking or whether it's on the ground. I'm going to be looking to either knock her out or submit her.
I did say that was going to be the last question, but I'm intrigued by one final point, and that is you have already lifted above your head a title, the Amateur World Championship title. I mean, I take it that you've got your eye firmly fixed on titles within Bellator or further afield. I mean, what's the game plan? I mean, moving forward in terms of not looking past Kerry, but what you hope to achieve within Bellator.
Yeah, so I was an amateur world champion, and I know it's my destiny to be a professional world champion, and I know I will be. It's just building up my record, getting that experience, and getting more fights, and hopefully being a lot more active. I'd love to fight in the London card in November as well. I know Bellator or come back to London. So I just want to keep active and get as much fights as I can over the next kind of year or two.
Now, it's funny you mentioned the London card in November. I mean, a lot of people are now starting to talk about that, and a lot of people are trying to put themselves forward. Now, obviously, you've got an obvious test, you've got an obvious opponent, you've got an obvious challenge in Kerry Hughes, and I don't really want you to look past her, but I got it in my mind that you might have surveyed the land in terms of opponent, in terms of possible future fights. Are there any that really do excite you and that, you know, obviously will inch you forward towards lifting yet another belt?
Yeah, I think the featherweight division is so exciting in Bellator. Any of the girls, I've been looking at a few of the girls. Me and Owen were, obviously my record isn't, I haven't got that many fights. We were looking at potentially a fight with Janae Harding. I don't know if it's in London or if it's in America. That'd be a fight I'd like. Any of the girls really, but I say that to Jude, like, don't ask me, don't send the fights to me, send it to Owen, because I'd agree to fight Godzilla in the car park. I'd agree to anybody. I was like, ask Owen, don't ask me, I'll just say yes.
Well, as I mentioned, September 27th is obviously going to be your next port of call in terms of challenges, in terms of fights. It looks on paper like it's going to be quite spectacular, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it's going to be some night. Like the last Bellator in February was like I fought in arenas around the world. I fought in like the Cage Warriors in Belgium and the IMAFs and sometimes like walking out to the 3 Arena in Dublin was just never felt the atmosphere like that before. It was such a difference, and I actually enjoyed the whole experience for a change. I enjoyed the before and after and everything, and obviously your team and fans and family are there. But the Irish crowd or something else. I've been to all the different kind of cards around, like been to the UFC London, been to all the shows, and there's nothing like 3 Arena in Dublin.
Incredible. Well, it goes down on the 27th of September, and only a few weeks to go. So, good luck to you in advance of that. I'm really looking forward to seeing you and Kerry Hughes in action. You can see towards the end, I was trying my best to try and get some fire
Oh,
in that.
no.
And I think, towards the end, she kind of like unloaded ever so slightly in describing what exactly is going to happen to Kerry Hughes and, the type of opponent that she's faced before. I suppose reading in between the lines, what she was basically saying was the opponents that she's faced before were on a high level to Kerry Hughes, but that might just be me and my troublemaking antics trying to get more juice out of something which wasn't obviously there.
Yeah, I saw you instigating stuff. I was listening, and I was like, look at Michael trying to get some ruckus on the show, man. And both these ladies just kind of declined. They're just really here to go at it. But what I did enjoy most about this interview is just like they come from different walks of life. Like Leah is like the Bellator sweetheart, and Kerry Hughes is like the dark horse. And she discussed like how she wasn't even invited to the media press conference, and Bellator is really baking this cake with Leah and stuff, so there is some like drama. I picked up on the tea and the drama, even though they didn't want to talk about it, because someone's a shining superstar and someone's like, I'm gonna end all that, and I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like I could tell. Kerry's definitely acting like, oh, they didn't invite me, it's all good, I'm just here to fight. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, you probably remember that shit. You're gonna remember that in the cage and take that shine from her. That's what you're gonna try to do. So I'm intrigued.
And this isn't Kerry Hughes's first time being the person who is not necessarily the belle of the ball, because this happened to her, I forget the promotion, but she fought, I think her name was Amanda Kelly, I want to say. And at the time, I forget the promotion, but that particular promotion had exalted Amanda Kelly to the status where, they expected Kerry Hughes to lose, and Kerry Hughes went in there and battered her.
Oh yeah, Cage Warriors 69.
Ah,
I got
right.
you. Yep. Very nice. Oh yeah, I think she's used to being the underdog. I think that's why their experiences are different. If you notice in the interview, she discusses that, she talks about how, hey, if you don't look a certain way, or the biases that exist when you're not an MMA sweetheart, they exist. Perhaps she's used to being this underdog, and perhaps she takes enjoyment in showing up in her cornrows and just waxing somebody's ass. You know what I mean? So that might just happen. And Leah's so cute and bubbly, and you could just see the polar opposites, and you can see why they're going for that promotional push, and why somebody's like, you can push her all you like, we're gonna fight in the cage and the doors are gonna close, so we'll see what happens. I'm pretty excited. I like, even though they didn't want to get into it, Michael, there's something brewing, something going on.
100%. I mean, speaking of not wanting to get into it, a lot of the trash talking that's been going on recently from Jorge Masvidal actually spilled over and actually reached Leon Edwards' ear in this interview.
Oh yeah.
8 fights deep. You haven't lost since 8 fights deep. You haven't lost since 2015. That is incredible.
And I'm all just getting warmed up, bro. Just getting warmed up, man. But like I said, I am one of the best fighters in the world, and I'll keep proving it time and time again.
But that's just it. How much more warm do you have to get? I don't know any fighter who the UFC have actually seen the rise, who've seen the dominance, who've seen the finishing rate and success that you have had, that has been kept on, arguably the back burner in terms of getting that title shot. I mean, how much warmer do you have to get?
Exactly. I feel I deserve a title shot 2 fights ago. You know what I mean? They're trying to keep me back, but I know I'm ready to go out there and to beat the last man to beat me, Usman, to get the belt off him. That'll be a perfect story for me, you know what I mean? So I am ready to go for the title. If not, I will spank that bitch Masvidal, and then I'll go on from there.
I mean, just on Masvidal, I take it that you may have actually seen a disturbance in the force over the last 48 hours in which Masvidal had a few choice words for you. What I'm going to do, I'm going to play what he had to say, and I want to get your direct reaction.
Leon then was shit, still is shit, in my opinion. I'm going to kick his ass. It's not going to be on his terms or whenever the fuck he wants it. It'll always be on mine, and that's what bothers him so much inside. He's got to look at this interview, or people are going to call him and tell him, You're a fucking nobody. I run the show. You listen to me. When I say I'm going to kick your fucking ass, I'll kick your fucking ass. And I'm going to get paid now. Like I said, 16 years I've been chasing this dream of getting the belt. You think I'm going to let some fucking bug like this guy even slightly throw me off my road, my destiny towards my greatness, towards the belt? I'm going to get the belt and I'm going to eliminate him off the face of the earth. I'm going to wipe the floor with that guy. It's going to happen. I swear to you, it's going to happen. It's just not going to be on his terms.
Now, I want to get your direct reaction on hearing that. You've heard it afresh now. Just tell me what's going through your mind when you're listening to Jorge Masvidal.
To me, it's laughable. It's laughable. This man is a journeyman. He speaks all this toughness and all this, but he is a journeyman. Like he said, he's been chasing this bout for 16 years. Not once has he got close. This is the closest he's got in however long, and now he's trying to hold on to his spot, making every excuse in the book there is not to fight me. You know what I mean? He knows I'll spank him.
Now, I want to get your direct reaction on hearing that. You've heard it afresh now. Just tell me what's going through your mind when you're listening to Jorge Masvidal.
To me, it's laughable. It's laughable. This man is a journeyman. He speaks all this toughness and all this, but he is a journeyman. Like he said, he's been chasing this bout for 16 years. Not once has he got close. This is the closest he's got in however long, and now he's trying to hold on to his spot, making every excuse in the book there is not to fight me. You know what I mean? He knows I'll spank him. I'm going to fuck him up, trust me. He knows it, and that's why he's trying to hold on to that little spot he's got. Hold on to his little 2-fight winning streak to try and get that belt. He knows after I beat him, there's no other way. There's no way he's getting that belt, that title shot again. You know what I mean? So he's trying to hold on to his little 2-fight win streak. But his day will come, and when it does, I'm going to fuck him up real bad.
And just on that, one of the things which he was really quite clear and very adamant about was the fact that he hadn't actually received the contract. Now, you said quite firmly, I know I read this recently, just clear up for me, what was the situation around the contract?
My management has spoke to the UFC. They said they want the fight. They're saying, I want the fight. Now they're saying, George said, no, you don't want to fight me. So that's all it is. I don't think there was an official contract sent out to him, because when they asked him about the fight, he says no. So he didn't get to the contract stages, because straight away after I beat RDA, they messaged me. They wanted to fight. That was a big fight to make, and I said, yeah, I'm up for it. Let's go. The management team said yeah. The UFC said yeah, and then now here we are. He's still chatting shit, still fucking making excuses. But I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go this year. I'm not willing to wait on no title shot. I'll fight Masvidal this year, and then fight for a title shot. That's how much I believe I am number one. You know what I mean? I'll fight him this year, beat him, then go on.
Can I ask, what's more important to you? Getting that title shot, having that title shot, or actually beating Masvidal? What's more important?
Title shot. My dream is to be a world champion. To provide for my family, and that's my aim in life, and that's my dream in life. And Masvidal just like a little rat that I don't like. He's just a little pussy that I don't like, and just want to slap him around, and that's it really. Apart from that, my dream is to be a world champion, to provide for my family, and going there and beating the champion would do all that for me. You know what I mean? So that's what's most important, is to be a world champion.
Can I just put it to you another way? As you know, look, my parentage is Jamaican, and I know for a fact there is a old adage in Jamaica, and that is, once someone disrespects you, come hell or high water, you have to get that respect back, and you get that respect back.
That's what I was brought up, bro. That's my life, and that's just where I was brought up. When nothing happened in London, he would have been hurt really badly. They had to move his hotel. They had to phone police. He wouldn't have made it out of the country. That's just the way I am from a kid. You know what I mean? That's always been instilled in my head since a kid from my dad, and that's just who I am. And he knows he got off lucky that night, and they saved him. You know what I mean? But his day will come. That even when they make the fight, we're gonna fight in the hotel, in the fighters' hotel. We will fight. We will fight all week. So I don't understand how they're gonna do it, because we're gonna fight all week, leading up to the fight. So it's gonna be madness.
I remember a while back, just before the whole Masvidal situation occurred, you had Darren Till firmly in your sights. Is he definitely in the rearview mirror? Or let's just imagine that the UFC were to set a date to actually come back to the UK and it be in Birmingham. Would that intrigue or interest you at all?
At the moment, Darren Till's not in my sight one bit. I think he's moving up to middleweight anyway. I'm hearing, you know what I mean. So I wish him well in that. But come back to Birmingham, I'll fight whoever they give me, just to come back to Birmingham. You know what I mean. I remember last time they came, I was probably 19, 20 years old, and I went to the show to watch my teammate Vaughan Lee. I remember going to the show and sitting in the stands, and I was up the furthest bit of the stands, the far as it looked small to me, and I remember feeling the energy and thinking I want to be in the UFC one day. You know what I mean? And to be able to come back now, bring it back to Birmingham, and to headline it, and give it another kid the same opportunity that I had and the same drive that I had, that'd be amazing. You know what I mean? So one of my dreams is 100% to come back to Birmingham with the UFC. So as far as Darren go, not really. He's not really in my sight. I wish him well at middleweight, and that's it.
I mean, just on, you're obviously looking now, the fact that you are 8 fights deep, 8 fights which you've won. Moving forward now. I mean, surely looking at the landscape, there is only one person that should be, obviously in your sight. Yeah. You should surely be talking about looking at your next fight being for the title. How likely, just based on the conversation that you've had already, how likely is that? The old romantic in me.
From what I've heard from the UFC, I think they want to give Colby the title shot because he was interim champion, and I think that more than likely they'll probably give Colby the title shot. And I said, I was a bit pissed, but I said, Marcelo's there. I'll be like, okay, cool. I'll do co-main event for Marcelo. You know what I mean? But I'm ready to go for the title shot, 100%. That's my aim, like I said, and that's my dreaming. If anyone pull out title shot, I will step in. So I'm ready to go. But it was them 2 fights at the moment that makes sense for me, and that's all I'm focused on now.
Well, and when you look at what actually transpired between Usman and Colby. Woodley. Did you have a newfound respect for him? Because, to be fair, he wasn't so ferocious and so dominant when you fought him. I mean, when you look at that fight, does that kind of give you a newfound respect for him?
Yeah, he's a good fighter. He's good at what he does, you know what I mean? And which is fair play to him. He did what he did to Tyron Woodley, and he's good, man. But like I said, I believe I have improved leaps and bounds since facing him, and I'm just looking forward to getting by that day when I get the rematch and I'll 100% beat him. I feel I've improved in all areas more than he has, you know what I mean, if you know what I mean. And I'll be ready for that rematch, but fair play to him for what he did to Tyrone.
One thing that bothers me, especially when your name comes up in conversation, and particularly, when UK fans bring you up, you aren't, how can I put it, the favoured child. They're not talking about you in the same light as the Tills. They're not talking about you in the same light as the Bispings, and they should be, considering the winning streak that you're on. First of all, does that actually bother you? Does that have any impact on you?
Not no more. At the time it used to do back in the day, but not no more. Now I have grown to trust my journey. I was kind of thinking, why not me? Why they're not pushing me and blah blah blah. But now I've grown to trust my journey. I'm on an 8-5 win streak, the second most of the current champion, and I'm just growing to trust my journey now, and trust my coaches, and just my belief and believing that I am number one. And I could not give a shit whether they push me or not, you know what I mean? As long as you pay me my money and put me where I need to go, then it's all good.
It bothers me from a slightly biased standpoint, and that is, I've never seen anybody on the streak that you're on be so delayed in their journey
Exactly.
towards the belt. So it bothers me in that respect, but also it bothers me because it makes me feel, or maybe I'll ask your take on it. Why do you feel as though, you are almost like the stepchild or the distant cousin?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know. To be honest with you, bro, I don't really put that much energy into it. I don't think about it no more. Just is what it is. I go out there, do my job, and they push you. They want to push, and that's it. I can't really um stress over something that I can't control, and I'll just keep going out there, beating everyone they put in front of me. Keep proving my case, keep proving that I'm number one in the world, and that's it. I think most people are so focused on being liked and like fan favorite, and then go out there and get knocked out. You know what I mean? Because they want to talk loads of shit, but they go out there and get smoked. But for me, I focus on just being the best fighter in the world, and it will come.
But that's just it. And I suppose I'm glad we've kind of like got to the natural point of the conversation where this is being raised. I personally don't feel that that's enough. If I put it to you this way, the squeakiest hinge gets the grease. I'm not necessarily advocating you going out and being something which you're not, and that is talking smack and basically being loud and really kind of like being over the top, but asking for what you want and getting what you ask for.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually what's missing. Has it just dawned on you now, or has it been something which, you've been working up to, that the fact that you do need to ask and then you'll actually receive?
Yeah. I think over the past year, um, I've been noticing the difference as far as my rise going. I think the more I talk, like I said, the more you ask for, the more you get. If you don't ask, you don't get. And um, well, I already told them what I need and what I want. My aim is to be a world champion. Is to be Usman. Usman on my soul. That's it. I will not take no other fights. And that's just where I'm at the moment. I am waiting for the call, see who's next, and I'm ready to go.
I mean, just on waiting for that call, are there any, how can I put it? Is there any dialogue at the moment which you're waiting for the conclusion for in terms of your negotiations with the UFC, in terms of where you're going next? I mean, how was it actually left with the UFC?
For as far as I know, I think all of like I said, I told them my ultimatum. You see with them two, or I'm not interested. You know what I mean? And as far as I know, that's what they're feeling as well. As far as I know, but like you said, nothing's never official until they sign the papers or in some document. You know what I mean? But I will not take no fight apart from them two.
I'm quite intrigued, actually. I mean, seeing as though it is in your weight category, and for my money, he's actually snuck in before you. There's an old Jamaican phrase, as you know, "empty barrel make noise." But who is making the most noise at the moment is Colby Covington. How did you feel about his last performance? I mean, when you looked at that, personally, myself, I felt a newfound respect for him. But how did you feel actually watching that performance?
Um, it was good. Fair play to him. He did what he needed to do. Kept a good pace all the way through the fight, and it was good. But it was hard to judge because Robert didn't put much resistance. If you know what I mean, he didn't do much to say, "Oh, yeah, Kobe's good. 'Cause look what Robert did, and then he did that." You know what I mean? Just basically, Robert's basically cruised to a loss. Basically, he did nothing to deter him. All he did, he moved his head a bit and threw like a few power shots. That was it for the whole fight.
Well, there is another way that you can actually look at it. The pace that he put on him, as you rightly said, was incredible. It was phenomenal. It was quite overpowering and quite bewildering as well. When you think about it, those jabs were obviously keeping him busy. When he wasn't jabbing, he was throwing hooks. And when he wasn't throwing hooks, he was taking him down. He was overpowering him, not just in terms of cardio, but in terms of work rate. So it's no wonder that, he wasn't actually doing anything, because he was almost as though he was hypnotized by the pace.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I can see your point, but I believe that if you're an elite fighter, you find ways to win. You know what I mean? You don't just give up because guys putting a pace on you. You just think, oh, okay, cool, I'll just lose. I always believe that you should always try and find a way to win. And I feel Robbie only had plan A. There was no plan B or C. You know what I mean? He went out there to knock him out, and that didn't work. And that was it. I lost. So I believe you should always have a plan B or C. But like I said, fair play to Kobe. It was a great fight. He did what he needed to do, and that's it.
And like you've already alluded to, look, it looks as though it's going to be Covington who gets the shot next. I mean, how do you see that fight going down? In your mind's eye, how do you see that playing out?
Usman? I don't know, because they're pretty similar fighters, aren't they? They're pretty similar. They're all right strikers, good wrestlers, all right jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? I don't know. Probably Usman. Probably a little bit more pop to his punches. Probably a little bit more stronger, probably. Probably Usman, if I had to bet. Probably Usman.
And finally, you heard in the clip there that I played you earlier that Jorge Masvidal had a personal message for you. It was full of venom, full of full of pep. Do you have a personal message for him? I mean, just closing off now, it would be lovely, because I know that he does listen to the show, if you could leave him a personal message.
My message would be, stop being a little pussy. Take the fight. You're saying you're a gangster. Just let's fight. You know what I mean? I'm gonna fuck you up, and he knows it. He knows it. So hold on to your little 2-5 win streak, and let's get it on. Let's give the fans what they want, and let's get it on. I want all the smoke.
Leon,
he's talking there. Make sure you can back it up, you know. You know what I mean? Because make sure you can back it up. He's talking all this shit about giving out, but make sure you can take it as well, innit? It's all right dishing out shit.
Leon, I have to say, considering how much I was actually trying to poke the bear, considering how much Jorge Masvidal has actually been talking in terms of trash talking of late, even addressing him directly in an interview where, he could have been talking about something else, but he took time out of the interview to actually directly address Leon Edwards. I have to say, Leon Edwards in that particular interview, or the interview you just listened to, was remarkably composed and still just, trying to keep it professional.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what Leon is. Leon is composed and a business professional. And I keep saying it every show, the Black Horse. He doesn't have to talk shit. His 8-fight winning streak speaks enough. You know what I mean? That's it. He's at the upper echelon of this division. And he doesn't feel the need to showboat. And he has some unfinished business with Jorge. And he wants to get it done. I really like that. He wants to fight Jorge, even though it's like he could be just begging for a title shot with his 8-fight win streak. You can tell that he just wants to beat this guy up and then maybe fight Usman or Colby for that title. I like that.
I like the idea of this being the co-main on Madison Square Garden. I just think that that's the rightful place for it when you think of what is going down there.
Oh, absolutely. And every time the UFC puts on a show in Madison Square Garden, it's pretty fucking stacked. And I think that would be perfect. And they need to put some fighters in the crowd as well, maybe bring them into the cage and really get something brewing here and have MSG really funky for us, because that's going to be really nice. But I love that Leon is just so composed and focused, and I don't think anybody's going to break that focus or his shine right now. I'd put my money on him, actually. I'm a huge Masvidal fan, but I think Leon can take him. What do you think?
I'm going with Leon because the last time I underestimated him, he made me look silly. And I just think it's the composure, it's the fact that he's business and business only that's really going to win him the fight. I think that, Masvidal is going to come in there and be fighting on emotion. And speaking of stack, just to pick up on what you were just saying there, of late, as I mentioned earlier, our UFC viewing hasn't been stacked. I mean, UFC 241, I suppose it could be described as a break from the recent norm, and that is, we've got some fun fights to look forward to. I think it's only right that we run down our picks, starting with Derek Brunson versus Ian Heinisch. I mean, who are you going with?
I'm going to go with Derek Brunson. I'm a bit more familiar with him. I trust his wrestling. I don't like that his chin is always up. I'm always worried about somebody knocking him out. Izzy, excuse me, I said his last name wrong, kind of showed us what happens when you keep that chin up. But I'm going to go with my man Derek and trust his wrestling here. I'd have to do a little bit more research on Ian. But they're evenly matched. I see Ian's 10 in this division, and Derek is number 8. So it should be a good matchup. What do you think?
I think in terms of experience, obviously coming in with a record of 11-7. I mean, Derek Brunson, I know records are for DJs, but I like the safe hands that he brings to this, and I like the experience that he brings to this. I'm just going with Derek Brunson just based on experience
Same.
and cage time, and the fact that, you know, he'll be battle tested as well.
Same. I agree.
So Gabriel Benitez and Sadiq Youssef up next. Sadiq Youssef, I like the fact that, you know, he's coming in there with that record of 9-1, going up against 21-6. I think that's some serious balls he's bringing into the cage. I'm, you know, again going with the safe pair of hands, Gabriel Benitez, only because of that impressive record which he's bringing into the cage. In terms of Sadiq Youssef, as I say, he should be saluted, but I'm going with Gabriel Benitez.
Yeah, we're going with the same fighter. I'm just going to go with, like, this man's experience. His record trumps Youssef's record. Not to mention he's Mexican. You know what Mexicans bring to the table, baby. They don't stop. You know what I mean? And yeah, I just think I think his striking might be a problem here, and his experience. I'm gonna go with Gabriel. I put my money on him.
Next up, Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa, or should I say, Big Money Romero. I mean, he's got some serious payday coming to him by way of that supplement company who his management took to court, and he's got a massive payout in terms of millions of dollars coming his way. I'm surprised he even turned up for this paltry bit of petrol money which he's going to be getting out of this. But in terms of the matchup with Paulo Costa, I'm going with Yoel Romero because he cuts an imposing figure when he strides into the cage. I mean, his wrestling is incredible, and, you know, just the fear factor I think he brings to this without even throwing a punch makes me feel he's going to get it done on Saturday.
Yeah, we're like agreeing a lot this match. This is interesting. I'm going to agree with you again. I'm going with Yoel simply because of his fight IQ. I am a fan of how Yoel can really figure people out when he's inside of the cage. Like, obviously he does his homework, but he makes whatever adjustments are needed inside the cage. For instance, when he fought Chris Weidman kept leaning to a certain area of his body. I forget whether it was the left. And Yoel knew to time that knee perfectly because Chris Weidman was being repetitive in that fight. And I think that's what Yoel does, is that he studies you while fighting you, and he figures out what to do to get it done. And let's not forget that Yoel Romero doesn't really lose except to the Grim Reaper, Bobby Whittaker. You know, and I understand that Paulo is undefeated, but Yoel has so much more experience than him, and I just think he's a smarter fighter. And the guy looks like he's made of steel, and he's a monster. I'm going with Yoel. That fight IQ is going to get Paulo.
100%. Anthony Pettis versus Nathan Diaz. Nate Diaz, I have to say, this is a welcome return, and I'm going with Nate Diaz just by sheer determination, grit, and the fact that, you know, regardless of how long he's been out, he has a hunger for fights. He has a dogged determination. He'll walk you down. I love the style where, you know, basically he is almost like an anti-hero. You love to hate him, and that's the reason why I'm going with Nate Diaz, just because of his sheer dogged, determined, walk-forward style, and the fact that, you know, I think in these big fights, Anthony Pettis, especially of late in recent fights, he does seem to be broken by that walk-forward, dogged determination opponents sometimes bring to him.
Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? We're gonna differ on this one, and it's gonna. And it's again. I like to say this on Twitter, and I'm gonna say this on this podcast. I pick with my brain, not my heart. I am a hardcore Diaz fan. I've been watching these men fight and be angry for no reason for years. I don't know why they're so petty. I don't know why they're so angry, but I fucking love it. And I've been watching them since Strike Force, and I'm gonna stop worshiping the two of them, but. I think that there's a blueprint out there to beat the Diaz brothers. I do not think that the Diaz brothers evolve with MMA. And that's what makes them so great, is that you know exactly what the fuck they're going to do, and they can still beat people up. Do you understand? Like, they will grapple you on the ground and submit you off their back. And then if you stand in front of them, they will box your face in, give you the finger, and then bitch slap you. It's beautiful. But there is a recipe to beat them. Josh Thompson did it. Carlos Conduit did it. GSP did it. And the best way to do it, to me, is that you cannot stand and bang with these folks. You cannot let them cut you off, get in your face, and then beat you up. And then so you either got to wrestle fuck them like GSP did, create distance and range with a jab, wrestle fuck, or kick their legs out and keep it moving. That game plan is to stick and move. And if Anthony Pettis can stick and move, kick this guy's legs out, he's going to win. But I'm hoping I'm wrong. I want Diaz to win, you know?
Well, you stay with your pick.
No, I am.
You're
It's
going
Pettis.
with Pettis. I'm going with Diaz. And finally, Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic 2. Now, we all know obviously what went down in the first stanza. We all know what happened when they met up the last time. But I think this time it's going to be different. For me, Stipe Miocic has been stewing on the fact that he is almost like some kind of, the way that, you know, Daniel Cormier has been talking to him is the way that you kind of slight, you know, a younger brother that isn't actually worthy of your time, your speech, your attention. And I think, you know, that is really going to come back to bite Cormier, because Stipe Miocic, I mean, people, you know, forget the guy is no joke. I feel that, you know, really and truly, this is Miocic's fight to win, only because in terms of age, he's got that on his side. Let's not forget, you know, Daniel Cormier is pushing 40. Now, for me, it's a very big and bold statement. I can't remember the last time that he's actually lost, if he has lost at all at heavyweight. But
Nope.
Stipe Miocic is gonna take it from me.
Wow. Well, as you can tell by my reaction, my wow. I think one of us must eat crow for this main event, and I'm going to put my money on you and Stipe Miocic. And again, I'm going to repeat myself. I want Stipe to win. Daniel Cormier is a cool guy and yada, 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 but for some reason, I'm just not a big fan. And that doesn't mean like I don't know he's a great fighter. I just like Stipe. You know what I mean? So I just don't think that Stipe is going to get it done. I think there's a reason why he went down the first round by Daniel Cormier. I think he's that great. He's never lost at heavyweight. I don't think there's anything that Stipe can offer DC that's going to trouble him. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying it's not going to be a hard fight. I just don't think that Stipe is going to submit him. I don't think Stipe is going to knock him out. I don't think Stipe is going to win. There's nothing that Stipe brings to the table that Daniel Cormier has not faced, and that Daniel Cormier isn't better at. He's the better wrestler. He's the better striker. He knocked him out in the first round. If you ask me, he's the better striker. You know what I mean? And the only thing that I think Stipe has going for him is that he wants revenge, and he's going to take this really serious, and he's going to make this a really hard fight for Daniel. But in the long run, Daniel's going to win.
Okay. Well, we haven't got long to actually wait for the outcome. We're literally days away from that.
Right.
But you know, I've been waiting for this moment throughout this podcast. It's time for our new section, Motherfucker of the Week. Take it away, G.
Well, I don't know if you've been paying attention to my Twitter page. I woke up the other morning and someone, I won't mention his name because he doesn't deserve for me to mention his name.
Put him on
You want me to
blast.
put him on blast? I don't know.
100%.
It might invigorate this person. He's become such a bane of my existence. Well, I believe his name is Natnael K, Natnaelk. His Twitter name is Judah Peru 1984. Backstory is I blocked him last year for just being constantly argumentative. And I don't mind arguing with people on Twitter. In fact, I don't argue, I call it a debate. So when people debate like adults and they don't call you names or slurs or they don't come at me, I don't mind going back and forth. In fact, there's a few people that I debate with all the time and I love them. But this guy just, he was disrespectful. And once you start to antagonize me, I block you. It's that said. But I just never knew that blocking someone would cause someone so much pain and heartache. I did this last year. And a year later, I wake up to him. I posted a new profile picture. Michael, he takes my picture and he puts it next to a giraffe. And he's like, isn't this funny?
Wow.
And I'm just like, who has the time, one, to take someone's profile picture after you've been blocked and then make a giraffe photo of me and tell everybody it's funny? And mind you, Michael, this has been going on for a year. I'm a grown-ass woman, and I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm being cyberbullied because I blocked somebody, and it's absolutely 100% pathetic. It's like
But that's just it. That's just it. You have to look at the average age and mental age of your average cyberbully, and you have to look where they live. They typically reside in their mum's basement and walk around the house more than likely in soiled boxers. This guy is no different, and I think, okay, he's lifting his trophy now, motherfucker of the week, and I think that should be his lasting accolade. And really and truly for you though, I think you need to be kind of like mindful of the mindset of your average Twitter troll.
I think I do know the mindset because it's like I said, this isn't the first time. He made another one of me a couple months ago and said some not so nice things again, and merely only because I blocked him. And then it doesn't stop. And it's ridiculous. And it's at some point I start to think to myself, how pathetic is this person? Like, what are you doing back there? Meanwhile, I'm on a podcast chucking it up with you. I'm having fun on MMA Twitter. People like talking to me. And here's the best part about all of this. When I'm not on MMA Twitter, my life rocks. I catch flights. I go to fights. I sit close. I tweet about it. I take photos. I exercise. I live such a full life. And then you have somebody that's sitting behind a computer with his dick in his hand making memes about me. Making memes about me. Go outside. Go have sex, meet somebody, get out your mother's basement. Stop making photos of people that you don't even know online. And here's another thing, Michael. I should not take that much space in anybody's head. You don't know me. This is pathetic. If I walk past you in the street, you wouldn't recognize me. Yet you and your cronies talk all day about me and sit behind a computer with a dick in your hand doing nothing. Go fuck abroad. Go do something. Go outside. Leave me alone. I'm living my life. I catch flights. I catch flights. I go to fights. You DM'd me in my inbox like you want to do a podcast. Voila. People like talking to me. People like, yes, people like talking to me. You should see my DMs. People be like, gee, what you doing? I don't even know you. How you? People don't do that for you. And the funny thing is, the sad part about it is that when he started doing this to me online, so many women contacted me and asked for his handle because you're scaring people. There are women that are like, I'm going to block him. I see the stuff that he's saying about you. I'm afraid. Be careful. And then you have other people like his lips are so ashy and gross. I don't even want to look at his profile picture anymore. I'm going to block him. Women are just like, 1 minute, one woman's telling me he's butt-ass ugly, and the next minute they're telling me that they're afraid of him. And then all him and his little cronies, everybody's looking at y'all like, y'all look stupid. Go outside. Go for a walk. You're scaring women.
Exactly.
You're scaring women.
Exactly. Well, put it this way. He's now been put on blast. That concludes this week's Motherfucker of the Week. And I think that he is a very, very worthy recipient of that. He gets my finger, and I'm guessing that he gets yours.
Yeah, but he also
nice...
needs some Carmex. I forgot to tell you that his lips are really ashy. So if anybody wants to send him some Carmex, please send it his way. He needs it, okay? I put out his Twitter handle. The man needs Carmex. Suck those lips in, baby, okay? Suck them in and put Carmex on them. Go ahead, Mike.
I was about to say, I suppose it's a nice segue into people who we should be talking about, and that is our listeners. Now, I'm guessing that we've got a few questions which you have chosen this week to actually bring to the table. So let's go.
off the top, my man Smokey J MMA, he's down under in Australia. I think we've kind of discussed this, but let's break it down a bit more. He said a lot of
Okay.
people have taken away from Luque's performance in light of Perry's injury. How did you guys score
Yeah.
the fight, and do you agree with the decision? Mike, how do you feel about it?
Def- Definitely agree with the decision. I like the fact, as I say, that Perry was coming forward, swinging those bolos, and the fact is, he was the heavier hitter, yes, but as I mentioned earlier, Luce for me was the more precise, and I think the turn or the decision maker for me was that knee. Okay, it was a very close fight, but I wouldn't, as I mentioned earlier, describe it as a robbery. I just feel as though, Perry's status just gets bigger and bigger as a warrior. But in terms of the decision, it was definitely the right one.
I agree. I had it first and third round Luque. I thought in the first round he was developing a nice jab, some low kicks, and I don't know, I had my eye on him, and I thought Perry was doing wonderfully, and I saw the improvements, but I just didn't think it was enough to win the fight. And I think what was really important was that third round. I think that knee to his face and that takedown that Perry attempted, which turned into Luque's favor with that guillotine and that blood and whatnot, that worked in his favor in the judge's eyes. So, I mean, I guess some people could call it a decision. I saw one blog called, not a decision, a draw. But I'm with you, Mike. I think Luque did just enough to pull it off. Just enough.
100%. Who's next?
Okay. Next this is a funny question, Mike, and it doesn't really have anything to do with MMA, but I thought it was funny. It's from my dude, Mo Scream Fight P1. And he said, I just witnessed 2 fat paramedics that were both cases for diabetes and a fat cop at a car wreck. Should there be strict rules that involve fitness to people that have to serve and protect us? What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think it might be a little bit restricted in terms of recruitment practices because you can't really discriminate on grounds of body type and body appearance. So I see where the listeners coming from, but I just think it might be a little bit discriminatory.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think it's a lot deeper than just like police departments having like weight and height and muscle mass requirements. You have to remember that these people are on the street working long hours. There's shortages. There's all types of things going on, and it also costs money to keep certain people at a certain size and weight. And unfortunately, like you said, don't judge folks either. I've definitely been to the gym and seen somebody 3 times my size outrunning me on a treadmill. You know what I mean? So don't sleep on people's appearances. I mean, look at Roy Nelson. Look at these people. They'll crack you upside the head and eat at Burger King right afterwards. Don't sleep on these folks. But I don't think the police department. I don't think the police department has the reason.
Anthony Joshua.
Yes.
Yeah, like Anthony Joshua found out most recently. Don't sleep on the fat guys.
No, and that was a pretty fun fight too. But exactly, don't sleep on him, and don't sleep on neither one of those guys, and don't discriminate. And also, too, don't forget that the police departments, more often than not, lack resources to kind of keep people in shape. So it's a really nice idea, but when you try to realistically do it, it's a really difficult idea for people to kind of stay on shape, to come up with a program for that, and to put people on the street to keep you safe. It's really hard.
100%. Next up.
I have a question for you from Shane Terra, Shanetra. He said, who do you think is a fallen prospect that is likely to make a great comeback? And he gave some examples. You don't necessarily have to use them. Mickey Gall, Nico Montano. Who do you think is a prospect that's going to make their way, that's going to be big in the MMA scene?
That is a really good question. I'm racking my brains very, 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 very deeply. And you know who springs to mind immediately? Mark Diakese. Mark Diakese came in to the UFC on a whirlwind in terms of laying waste to guys and doing it in such a spectacular fashion. But not only that, he was basically doing it in such a way where he was calling the shots in terms of giving the big talk, talking big and talking quite loud. And, had his whirlwind approach actually cut short. And I really do feel we're going to get back to the old Diakese, who I like, the Bone Crusher, I like to call him, because, Mark Bone Crusher Diakese, as I say, came in on this hype, came in laying waste to dudes, and I'd like to see that Bone Crusher return. So I can see that actually happening, because, he fought, who was it that he had last? Joseph Duffy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a more mature and more measured
It
performance.
sure was.
I just think once he gets his confidence back, I think that we'll see a return to form. So I'm going with Mark Diakese.
And you're going to get your wish, quite possibly. Mark Diakese is fighting Fernando, I forget his name. He's also a very flashy fighter, Vando Lanata, something like that. He's fighting Mark at UFC Copenhagen, which is going to be fireworks. They're both pretty flashy guys, but I wonder if Diakese is going to be that same flashy guy, or is he going to be a bit more measured? So it's going to be, you're going to get to see what you were just speaking of, and I'm excited for you, but keep that in mind. It's going to be at UFC Copenhagen. We got time for one more?
No, I'm interested in who you're going with in terms of prospects, fallen
oh my
prospects.
God,
I want to hear your
I'm
take.
jumping the gun. I'm going to go with, no, I am. I'm going to go with Aaron Pico. I think he's...
Aaron Pico?
Yeah, baby. I think
Okay.
the reason why I say that is because, one, he has like this kind of, he hasn't fallen from grace, but he does have like an interesting story of being pushed too hard either by Bellator or his team. I still don't know who's doing that to him, making him fight all these savages off the gate, but it makes for a hell of a story. If you think about it, like, you got this guy that's well-rounded, he can do everything, but just hasn't learned to put it together yet his team or whoever thinks he can, and they're putting him against these experienced fighters, and he's losing in like tremendous fashion when he does lose, and then when he wins, he's smoking people. Like, he's showing people like, this is why I'm the prospect. So I think he has like this really cool story, and he still has Scott Coker's back. In the interview, when you interviewed Scott, he still believes in him. So I think when you have the push of the president of the company, and you're at Jackson MMA, and you can put all this together and you take some time off, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back and they make better business decisions, that he is able to showcase why he was that prospect. So I think the fallen prospect that I think is going to come back and just start murking dudes is going to be Aaron Pico.
Okay. Yeah. So did you say there was one final question?
Yeah. This question is from someone you might be familiar with. It's called G-Spot MMA. Wonder who that is. Wonder who that is.
Okay.
Yeah. She goes by the name of Gina. Hint, hint. And Gina's also a private account. So fuck all y'all that want to come over there and cyberbully her. The doors are closed and accepting no new friendships. So fuck all y'all. The question is, when a woman makes a joke on Twitter about men, do you assume it's all men? And when I say make a joke about men, of course in a poor light, like a garbage type of guy, a piece of shit type of guy, when she makes a joke about men, how do you interpret that, or how do you react?
Put it this way, I'm pretty self-aware, and the way that I look at it is I don't feel as though everybody's talking to me when they mention men. I think that would be rather, that would be quite conceited. And I think as well, a lot of the comments, yes, I can see in other men, but at the end of the day, you're not talking to me specifically when you're mentioning men in general. So to answer your question, no, I don't feel as though, I'm being addressed when the term men is actually thrown about in tweets.
Okay, well, being that you just answered the question and you're coming off like a really normal guy, I held my breath. I was so scared for you to answer this question because no, I was really afraid. I was like, please don't be a psycho. Don't be a psycho. Don't be a psycho. Here's the issue with that. And it's not just me. Yeah. I speak for a lot of women on MMA Twitter. A lot of us, we always have this complaint that when we talk about men, the bad ones, suddenly we get, our mentions are full of not all men, or how dare bitches do that shit too. And it's just like, I wasn't talking to you. Whoa, Like, I'm talking to the guy that called me in his office, my boss, and had his dick in his hand when he said it was a meeting. I'm talking about the guy that, like, when I walked past him, he catcalled me, and when I told him to chill out, he kept doing it or said, fuck you, bitch.
Yeah.
That's the person.
Yeah.
That is the person that I'm talking about, or the person that when I tweet something, they attack me, and it's merely just my opinion. And meanwhile, most women on MMA Twitter, we ignore the racism, the homophobia, and the casual comments that men make. Like, we ignore them because we're just like, okay, you're good and fucking crazy, next. But I find that we get attacked, and when we discuss that, men get really mad at us, and it's like, we're not talking to you. And I don't
Well, I think
why is that, Michael?
Well, there's a sense, I would say, coming across from what you just said there in terms of men's reaction, there's obviously a sense of immaturity there. There's a lack of self-awareness. I mean, if you're confident in yourself, then why do you need to group yourself in negative comments when you hear them?
Thank you.
So the way that I'm looking at it, if you are sure of yourself, if you have that self-check button on all the time, if you are the type of person who is easily triggered, then really and truly, perhaps you need to be checking yourself before you check people who you think are attacking you.
Oh my God, if I could just put you in my pocket and just have you say that with every tweet that I put out, because it's just like, I sometimes, because the DMs get lit, Michael. I want you to know that. The girls and I be in there like, girl,
Wow.
he's crazy. Girl, he's crazy. Block him. He's scary. And I don't think men understand that, like, you look crazy when you do that. When you see something and I make a joke and you're just like, explain yourself, you look nuts. It's a joke. It's Twitter. What the hell am I explaining myself to you for? This is getting weird. And it's just like, I love men. I have more guy friends than female friends. I love dudes. I'm just talking about the ones that are mean to us, not you.
Yeah.
It's really, really strange. And then the best part, Michael, is that when I see guys like, fuck that bitch, she a hoe. Why I hit like? I'd be like, true, fuck that bitch, she a hoe, yo. because they're not talking to me. In fact, you know what I'm saying? Me, like when I see men post things like, oh, this woman grabbed this man's ass and she should be arrested. Why am I the first person to be like, call the police on that bitch? Call the police. You do that to my older brother, ladies. If I'm walking with my older brother and you grab my brother's dick,
Yeah.
I'm beating the shit out of you and we're both going to jail. I don't have a problem with this, but it just seems like we don't, like, why are they attacking us for this? And I'm just so glad you answered that question. I think all the ladies are going to be really happy, and I hope somebody's listening to you, that if you need a disclaimer that not all men, when it comes to my jokes and other women's jokes, you really need to sit back and relax and think about yourself and relax. Because I can't take it anymore.
100%. Well, that wraps up yet another incredible episode of the Wocast. Make sure, if you want to join us on Twitter, I love to hear from every single man who feels triggered. That will be one of the talking points which I'm happy to debate on Twitter. So if you're a man and you're triggered by people mentioning men in their mentions and the fact that, some men are trash, not all men, but some men are trash, and you feel as though you are being personally attacked, just at me. You can find me on Twitter at MikeWoTV. And how about yourself, G? Where can people actually find you now?
Oh, they can find me at G from WoTV, and those men that feel that way can also at me, but you just better be fucking nice, because I am a nice listen, I'm a very nice person, but don't attack me. If you attack me, it's a whole nother ball game. But if y'all want to talk about it and not be assholes or make memes about me, and you seriously want to talk to me like, gee, why you bit my head off, or gee, this and that, holler at me. Let's just speak like human beings and not make memes about each other like children. That's it. So holler at me.
On that note, I'm going to say something completely contradictory. Makes me trouble.
I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed.